Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Ron. Sunday morning, a little after 11 a.m. We'll get started and see if we have any questions. Uh, in this season that the country seems to be in, the world seems to be in, the chaoticness, all the confusion, and people being in fear. We have talked a lot about fear. We've talked a lot about forgiveness, and that's where we were yesterday. Uh, Audrey was talking about self-forgiveness and what that means and looking at things from that perspective. Uh, and Pastor uh, wind the conversation up talking about the fear of the nation and some of the policies that some of the politicians have been discussing. And we left at the end of the day on a high note, offering some encouragement as to recognizing who we are and what we are, and even saying maybe it's time we uh, stop paying so much attention to what's on the media if it shakes us to that degree, but being able to rely on who we are, each other, and sessions like this to help us to keep our balance. And that's something we've continuously talk about is being balanced, what that looks like. Uh, and even to the degree of you looking at your small self that you may not have this or that, you may not have these kind of bank accounts or this kind of status, but you are the spiritual being that the universe has chosen to use to stand at this time. So the status as man mark status has nothing to do with what we're doing. In fact, it's actually the total opposite. So that's where we are. Any questions and or comments? On anything, not just that stuff, but on anything. Okay. I want to start off then with a question. Uh, Something that Pastor was explaining yesterday, and maybe he can sort of do a recap for how he got to this point before, if there's anyone on the line that may not have been with us yesterday. And I wrote this down, and I may not have written it as he said it, but you talked about organized religion organized for the European by an African. We were talking about that. We were talking about self-forgiveness. Go into that, please, sir, if you would, and let's see if we can get some understanding of that and tie that to the forgiveness portion as well.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Um, what I was saying is that an African is the one who brought religion into existence at the behest of Ptolemy, the Greek pharaoh in Egypt. What happened is, and I've said this before, when Kemet was invaded by the Greeks, and Ptolemy became the first European pharaoh by force. His idea of rulership was based on his perception of what a pharaoh was. And his perception was that a pharaoh is God, is a god. And he sought to be deemed a god by the Kemetic priesthood. He understood that he would not be accepted by the community unless the Kemetic priesthood made him acceptable. And his idea of being acceptable was being a god to the nation. And when they refused to do that, they meaning the priesthood, he had them beheaded. And he went through this several times before he found a willing subject in the Memphite priesthood, whose name was who was called Stephen. I don't know where he received his name, but it was Stephen. Stephen being an African and Stephen being the leader of the Memphite priesthood, decided that he would acquiesce to the request of Ptolemy because he did not want to be beheaded. And as a result of that, um, subsequent actions by Stephen and Ptolemy brought into existence this god called Ptolemy, Ptolemy Soter, meaning that it was Ptolemy the Savior. And they minted an image of Ptolemy. And the image of Ptolemy is the same image that we see very frequently of Jesus the Christ. And eventually Ptolemy became Jesus the Christ. Now, that's all started with the acquiescence of Stephen. So my conclusion is that religion was brought into the earth by an African. And if Stephen had not acquiesced, the question becomes, would we have religion today? Probably not. The next question is, why would the Creator allow that to be? Is it that the African wants to bring his own limits into existence by virtue of naming a god to its conqueror or its enslaver, and as a result of that, the enslaver realizing the power in being God to the African, continued that pursuit until to the day today, when all images of God are European, and the African to this day has a reverential fear of Europeans, and to the extent that even when they are shown without question how Christianity, Islam, Judaism, how all these isms came into existence, and the reason for them being brought into existence, they still fight to hold on to the belief in these religious policies that emanated with Europeans for the express purpose of enslaving and manipulating, maintaining control over African and other people of color. I hope that's a clear explanation. I'm done.
Thank you. Any questions about that? You know, the more I guess I hear you explain this, Pastor, and maybe I'm just kind of as I see the whole picture, my view on it just kind of changes and kind of softens a bit. But I'm not sure I see where Stephen had much of a choice, in the manner that there isn't a time that you can turn on the television and see where an African has died needlessly by the hand of whoever through violence, that you don't feel the pain. Could it be that more that he did not want to see any more people die or be slaughtered, rather than he was afraid? And maybe both of those things are true. So
I think it was more of his. It may have been afraid in the beginning, but if you read the complete story, you will find out that he was in league with the Greeks and the Romans when they sought to establish religion for the purpose of control. There is no indication, from what I have seen, that he had any regrets, only desires to be not only accepted, but to receive the authority that was offered to him by Ptolemy and others. So, and when it comes to forgiveness, in order to connect that to forgiveness. I believe that um, this is no different than what it says in Scripture. I created light. I made the darkness. Something of that nature in Isaiah 41, I think it is. The African brought everything into this earth that is good and evil. And as far as the forgiveness is concerned, we when we talk about forgiving ourselves, that forgiveness has to begin with the self who brought into existence this these religious principles that have us enslaved to this day, psychologically, physically, as well as economically, in every other way that we can think of. It's not something that we should dislike Stephen for having done. The thought had to come from someplace. Even the idea of conquering had to come from someplace. So uh, I I have sought and still ask others to forgive him for what happened, and also pick up from there and move forward to bring spirituality into reality. Why? Because religion opens the door and allows you to do anything you choose to do with impunity, but spirituality does not. Religion would allow us to retaliate in a very physical way, and being as creative as we are, if we were to lose all sense of our spiritual nature and make a decision to do that, it would be impossible for anyone to stop us. However, um, a mother does not seek to destroy her children, and a father seeks to protect his children. So I don't see that happening, even though that possibility is always out there. What I do see happening is the world being um, brought to a place of balance because we are the mirror of that balance. What I do see happening is forgiveness not only to Stephen, but to everyone who participated, not just the African, but also the Telemis, as well as the Europeans who came after them, who to this day are just as brutal, ruthless, and greedy as ever before. Um, without these without sincere forgiveness, we would truly lose our spiritual way. We would lose our sense of morality if we were to seek any type of physical revenge. We would lower ourselves to the depths of barbarity without if we were to do something like that. So I, I'm I just don't see us being in a state of unforgiveness. I don't. I'm done. That's not even our nature.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I remember.
I would like to make a comment. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I yield.
yes. No. Please do so.
Okay. I was going to say, I like the way I feel when I have forgiveness or when I've forgiven someone. When I was young, my mom went through a lot. We went through a lot. And we didn't understand how she could forgive the things that people had did to her. It just, we used to ask her, Mom, how can you forgive this for that or that? And I think that's what freed her from a lot of the stuff that she had gone through. And now that I've listened to us, the family, the spiritual family, on how important it is to forgive, that means you free yourself from a lot of the trauma that has happened to a lot of Africans. in this lifetime. And my sister Mary loved this song by Denise Williams, I Just Got to Be Free. And I thought about that this morning. We are free, but we have to know it. It's just like a bird being in a cage. The cage door is open, but the bird don't know. All it got to do is just get out of that cage. And to me, I feel good when I let things go. I let whatever has happened to me in my life go, because I love that feeling. It's a good feeling when you forgive. And even saying, even saying that you apologize for things that you know that you didn't do, but you still say it anyway, because I just love that feeling. I see how important it is for us to forgive, because I love the feeling. I love that vibration that I'm in. And it's like when you free your mind, which is the main thing. If your mind is free, you're free. And I can help others to be free. And I've seen that take place. There are times when I have my moments where things will come to me. I know that thought doesn't belong with me. It doesn't belong. It's not part of me. But when I get that thought, especially at work, you see all this stuff. I talked to Vermel about it. You see stuff, people holding on to money, financial stuff. We know we need that. That's a tool. But how they operate, it's just, if you love the way you feel when you forgive, and some things it's hard to let go. I'm not saying that at all, because I didn't get like this overnight. But when you realize these things must be, it's something for you to grow from and to build upon, the freedom or whatever. It's such a good feeling. And I just love being in that place. That's all I wanted to say this morning. I wanted to share. Thank you for listening, family.
Well said.
Yeah, well said. That's very powerful. Anyone else? Thank you, Evelyn.
You're welcome.
I again, as we what, in our second week again, how many times have we talked about forgiveness, and rightly so, because we feel a different come to a different expression of it every time we discuss it. And I too have struggled with it in some episodes of my life and things that I've seen, and as so especially some conversations that Pastor and I have had. But I think I saw something last evening when I was looking at this, or thinking about it, and thinking about Stephen, and finding a way to see him differently is what I was looking for. And I look at the word forgiveness starts with F-O-R-E, and for talks about beginning or going back before something start, so does forgiveness take us back to the beginning of something, to the point where even not so much for that person, but for you? For example, I have struggled with the Creator, trying to understand how the Creator allows so much death and violence, and maybe the going back to the before. We see that the death that we experience here on earth through the violence is not what the Creator had in mind at all at the beginning when he mentioned death. So the death, we have made it literal, just like we have taken the scriptures and twisted them around to mean things that don't exist. So as we understand true forgiveness, we see it from a different place, and death is understood from a different place, and recognizing that, as we have said, you are the conduit, you are the tool that can take things back to the beginning, to the origin of life. And that is the energy that forgiveness brings. And that is the energy that we carry. And that's what makes what Evelyn said so powerful, that feeling that she has. So these conversations or these lessons have helped bring me to that place as well. So
Could it be that the Creator allows what we allow? Because we've been placed here in this consciousness to dominate.
yes,
And it takes things like what happened with Stephen, all of the things that we've seen as negative kinds of things, or the things that have brought us to this point. Would we have gotten to this point had we not had the trials? You know, Pastor talked about what would have happened if this had never happened. It would have been a different world. But now that it has happened, everything on this course, on this path of enlightenment, happens so that we each have that opportunity for enlightenment, not just our family, our spiritual family, our immediate family, spiritual family, but everybody in the world. And so what happened allowed everyone access to understanding and knowing who they are if they choose that path. So could it be that the Creator allows the death because we allow it?
I agree with you, Barbara.
yeah,
We allowed it, yes. It's something else to Bob, that I believe we had to understand the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. And without the adversities, we would not know the difference. Meaning that right now, we reference our minds a lot, and we use our minds a lot according to us. Matter of fact, we use our minds all the time. And we give so much credence to our minds until we have allowed our minds to dominate our spiritual essence. When in fact, our minds are simply a tool for us to function in the material world, not a tool to dominate us. We are spiritual beings, and the essence of our processes of thought emanates in the world of enlightenment if we allow it to. If not, then our thoughts are created by what our eyes see, and thus we are dominated by our minds, which is a tool for us to navigate this world. So now that we are beginning to process spiritually more than ever, we're beginning to see the power in a spiritual essence of our existence, as opposed to the helplessness that we see with our eyes and process with our minds. I think that's a major, major difference, something that we should probably look at more in depth. How we talk about now, we think spiritually more than we do otherwise. Well, otherwise is with our minds. I hope that's understandable. I'm done.
thank you. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you, Pastor. That resonates so much, and it reflects directly back on what was discussed yesterday about fear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When we allow our mind, the natural kinds of aspects of our eyes and our ears to see and hear, and to think, then if we do that more than we attune to who we are, it just resonated so much with me when you say, well, that's where the thoughts come from, because we allow them to take root and to become. And it's easy to say, I know that. I struggle with this when I struggle with fears as well. But that's the reason we're here. It is a struggle, and when we get through that struggle and we reflect back, we will understand even more of who we are.
Yes.
Yes.
Great start to the day. Anyone else? We're talking about forgiveness and even fear and overcoming, recognizing who we are.
Hello,
Ron, I
everyone.
have
This
one
is,
more comment. Oh, I yield. I'm sorry. Hey,
go
Sheldon,
ahead.
I yield.
Go
Well, I was going
ahead.
to say,
You might be
too,
alive.
well, we need to be honest, too, about things, especially what we're dealing with. A lot of times, and I can only speak about me, I've been in denial about things. And we just need to be honest about situations or how we feel about things. Because if you're not true to yourself, I mean, you're not fooling nobody else. It's best if you just be real, be true, authentic. It just helps you to deal with stuff better. And I can only tell you about me. But that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
That's
Hey,
that-
Sheldon, again.
Before you speak, Ellen, there are people who have lied to themselves so long they don't know what the truth looks like about themselves. They convince themselves that they are on this journey to truth. Yet, when they look in the mirror of their lives, they have convinced themselves that the lie that they've told themselves is the journey of truth, and they don't want anybody to correct them. Anyone who makes any attempt to tell them something differently than what they have convinced themselves of, they don't want to hear it. As a matter of fact, when you are trying to help someone to understand and to see the error of their ways, if they get angry, they see it, but they don't want to. They want to stay where they are. So you leave them alone and let them suffer in silence, or let them come to the conclusion that they are in self denial. And at some point, hopefully, their eye will open and they will see themselves instead of seeing the wrong in everybody else. Thank
Ashe. Ashe.
And this is Sheldon again. And to that point, I always say that this certainly happens a lot as well. It is pointless for us, or anyone for that matter, to get upset sometimes with someone who keeps lying to them. And the reason being is because this person, just as Pastor Richard just said, have lied to themselves so much and convinced themselves of the lie that how can we expect someone to tell us the truth when they are living a lie and telling a lie to themselves. The only thing they're doing to us is extending that lie for which they are living in within themselves. But they have no choice but to lie, to you. That's just where they are, and you just so happen to be coming, in a sense, coming in to encounter their lie with them. That is all. I really don't know where to start because a lot has been said, both forgiveness and fear and the physical. But I guess I'll start off, with forgiveness. And as it was mentioned yesterday, in terms of forgiving ourselves, and not only forgiving ourselves, but forgiving others as well. When the scripture talks about, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not going to be able to say it word for word, about judge not for unless you will be judged. In a sense, what it's saying is not talking about you outwardly being judged. What it's talking about is when we fail to forgive someone for something that they have done, we then are saying that there is a possibility that someone can do something that is unforgivable. They cannot be redeemed from that transgression that we have a problem with. Well, by extension, it automatically says as well that there is something that we too can do that is unforgivable and therefore unredeemable. So in a sense, when we fail or we refuse or to have the idea of someone cannot be forgiven and we cannot forgive them for that particular thing, we judge ourselves and then keep ourselves, in a sense, or at least believe subconsciously that there's a possibility that we cannot be forgiven, we cannot be redeemed we cannot be untangled from a particular thing. When Barbara mentioned about Stephen and the Creator allowing that to happen because we allowed it to happen. A big thing, well, first of all, intertwined in forgiveness is the ultimate love, and is absolutely necessary. We think about free will. The purpose of the free will, or why the free will itself is an absolutely necessity, is because the ultimate love can be experienced once someone is doing something on their own accord and they're not being forced or coerced or manipulated in any type of way to do that particular thing. Strictly, they're doing it because it's coming purely out of their heart and they want to do it. So when that actually happens, when we do whatever it is that we do, when whomever, anybody does whatever it is that they still do, the ultimate experience of love is for the Creator to still accept you, for the Creator to say, you or me, I am your own, for you to feel, or for us or anyone to feel that redemption and acceptance, and to not be held against because of whatever took place. Not because it's made, just because. That is the ultimate love. That's why free will is absolutely necessary. Are there any questions or comments before I go forward anymore? Because I wanted to speak about the physical and fear. Okay. As it relates to, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just a comment. What you just said reminded me of what we talked about several weeks ago about what blasphemy is, and it's separating yourself from divinity. And when we separate ourselves from each other, because there is divinity in each of us, regardless of how we manifest our actions and our thoughts externally, whether it's evilness or unrightness or whatever, but there is still that divinity within each of us. And when we separate ourselves from others by making a choice not to forgive, then to me, that smacks of blasphemy too. We've always thought about it as separation from the Creator, as if the Creator was a separate entity from each of us. But the Creator is us as well, and in everyone, and is everyone. And so each time we do that, it seems to me to be a form of blasphemy when we deny others. We don't have to like what they do, but anyway. So thank you.
No, I agree 100%. And not only that, it compounds the situation, for the fact, at least, us on the phone actually know better. So then it becomes more so of a conscious decision that we are aware of. So it's like we knowingly deny the Creator in a sense, whereas someone else who is doing it, and as we have done it in the past, it may not have felt right, but we didn't have the same understanding and was at a different place of growing in a sense. But I don't want to say it makes it worse, but it definitely makes us more accountable, and therefore the consequences of repercussions are actually felt more because of our awareness, and we know better. And I guess one other thing that we mentioned in the past few weeks that seems appropriate here as well, in terms of when we fail to forgive, in a sense, we cut off that internal growth in ourselves. It's like we cut off the nutrients. If we were to think of ourselves as a flower or a plant or something, we cut off water, we cut off sun in a sense. we've actively done that. We've actively, in a sense, made it dark without the radiance of the sun. However, when we do forgive, it puts us in touch with that love. It puts us in that connection, and therefore we automatically, in a sense, heal ourselves. We provide the nutrients that we need as well to grow and to continue to grow and to move, in a sense, forward in the now and not to stay stuck in the past, holding on to something instead of moving. Because in the now is constant movement in a sense.
I like that, Sheldon. You reminded me of something, and I hope this is related. When I study the trees, you hear me talk a lot about nature and trees and stuff. One of the things it does, well, the sun feeds that tree, and the leaves take on energy and turn it into food so that the tree can survive during winter. But the tree always takes on more nutrients than that's what's needed. So as we know that the intertwine of the roots of the forest system, you know, what makes the tree do that? The tree knows that it has enough that it can survive through the winter, but it takes on more because it shares. And that is just something that it recognizes that I am more than just this one tree. There's a lot more to who I am than just this one tree. And just what you reminded me of when you were talking about that. We're in the process of connecting or seeing that connectiveness and how much we rely spiritually and are entangled with each other. So.
Good morning.
There's also, go ahead, George.
No, I'm
Good
sorry.
morning.
Go ahead, Sheldon. I yield. Go ahead, Sheldon.
No. Go ahead, I yield.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. You know, as we're speaking, you know, on the subject of forgiveness, you know, I was reading a book, Working with the Law, and it talked about, you know, the importance of the law within us, the spirit that we are. But this particular reading, I'd like to share with you because I think that it resonates with our conversation, and it's on the subject to forgive. You know, it says, that slight misdeed of yesterday, why should it mar today? The thing he said, the thing you did, have long since passed away. For yesterday was but a trial. Today you will succeed, and from mistakes of yesterday will come some noble deeds. Forgive yourself for thoughtlessness. Do not condemn the past, for it is gone with its mistakes. Their memory cannot last. Forget the failures and misdeeds. From such experience rise. Why should you let your head be bowed? Lift up your heart and eyes. And as I read this, I just wanted to just share in terms of just where we are in this season, to be able to appreciate us continually working, you know, with not just knowing ourselves, but being able to forgive, being able to appreciate the journey that we're on today. And as we talk about working with the law, we're talking about those principles. And I think that, again, I appreciate, you know, what has been said thus far, but I just wanted to share that reading, you know, with everyone, because I think that, again, it maybe have some continuity with our conversation today. Thank you for letting me share. I'm done. If there's any questions.
Thank you, George. Yes, I do think it ties in beautifully where we are. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, Sheldon, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I had something to say about physicality, but I didn't want to move on before we were finished where we're at currently.
What I'm about to say might move us forward, so go ahead.
Okay. As this, and this kind of ties into fear, which is also a part of focus. I believe it was Charles, like last week or some time ago, had mentioned the idea, I think it was, of the rich man entering the kingdom of heaven and the eye of the needle. And part of that and what it's actually saying is not because in a sense, just that the rich man is rich, that is going to prevent him to do that. It is more so because it's more likely that that rich man is focused on material things, and not just focused on material things, but that's where their priority or focus is prioritized, I would say. And Pastor Richard, I think it was yesterday, mentioned the idea that once you have $1 million, there'll never be enough. 2 million won't be enough because you're focused on obtaining more and more of that physical thing. Well, the thing that automatically does subconsciously as well is, as that person is only focused on the material things, they're also looking at their life or their worth as being caught up and only limited to, in a sense, a lifetime, because the thing that they're focused on, in a sense, is that lifetime. So that is their world. That is what exists in their mind. That is what exists in their subconscious. That is all that they can actually see. And as we focus on things as a priority, whether we realize it or not, that is the experience that we have, and that is what shapes our experience. So in a sense, it is the canvas for which we paint our experience on. It is we limit the colors that we use in the painting of our experience. As Pastor Richard talked about, us leaving more so of the relying less on the mind and utilizing and enjoying the mind in a sense, but looking beyond and realizing that there's more that exists beyond the mind, and now focusing more on the spirit. What happens when we do that more and more is you come to find out and see or understand subconsciously at first that this quote unquote lifetime, in a sense, is not the all. And you begin to see and experience yourself beyond that. You don't start to see, okay, when I leave this physical body, it's all over. You have a knowing and understanding that you have an existence beyond that. It doesn't become pressing then to focus on only the things that exist on that canvas that you thought you were only dealing with, saying, okay, these are the things that I have to achieve in my lifetime because this lifetime is all that it exists. In the same way that I'm saying that, the same way that fear works. If we could only, for this example, associate certain colors with fear, let's just say we use black, red, orange, and brown, something maybe a little dark, and let's just say that represented fear. When maybe some dark yellow, mustard color. If that was representative of fear, and as we paint, all of our pictures, the canvases will look like those colors or something close to it. Only because that's what we're focused on when we have the entire color palette available to us. Or if you want to think about it one way, we're only painting, we're using paint when we have pencils and we have watercolors and a whole bunch of, we have wood, we have anything else that we we have access to using those in our craft or creating art as well, but it's what we actually focus on. What we focus on is what we experience in our life, because that is the canvas for which we have decided, knowingly or unknowingly, to paint with. And as we continue on this spiritual journey, the more and more that we see that we are, and the less limitations that we actually see. The only limits to the self and our experience are the limits that we actually set. I'm finished.
I like that. I really like that, because I guess because I see in pictures, and that was pretty vivid. I could see your points that you were making. I also think it fits beautifully with Evelyn's point about being honest with yourself. It doesn't matter if you fool me. It just you be honest with yourself is where growth comes in. Where yeah, I like that. Thank you, Sheldon.
Yeah,
Any
to that
questions?
last point. Yeah. Just to that last point, right quick, Ron, and to what Evelyn mentioned earlier. Yes, no matter what we do in life, for anyone, it's impossible to get over on anyone in a sense, and kind of like gain, because ultimately the person that we're getting over when we try to get over is getting over on ourselves. If we try to even cheat, even if it's temporarily or it seems like we're winning at the particular moment, if you look at it in terms of our growth, it's almost like this exact same idea of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Because what you eventually realize is that you're connected. So in a sense, you're hurting yourself. It's impossible to ultimately get over on another. It's like it's impossible to trick or fool ourselves. Finish.
Point well taken. Thank you. Any comments about what Sheldon just mentioned?
If not, I want to add something about yesterday. I believe that what we are seeing, would you mute your phone, please? I believe what we are seeing before our eyes is balance forcing the forging of a nation. Someone's phone is not muted. Vermelo, are you able to see whose phone is not muted? Thank you.
Okay.
What I'm
Pastor,
saying,
please say that again. We're seeing with our eyes balanced forging
forging a nation right before our eyes.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. What I'm saying is this. Yesterday, I talked about the necessity in not being afraid. Fear blinds us, and what we are seeing causes fear in people, and if that fear is the dominant force, then no changes take place. What I am saying in essence is, whether you look at the energy forces of a Trump or the energy forces of a Biden, a country is being brought to its knees. The foundation of it is being destroyed. The fear of the energy of a Biden is not of the energy of a Trump. The fear of the energy of a Biden is that the status quo is changing. And the fear of the energy of a Trump is that the status quo of dictatorship is being brought to the surface. The thing that the energy forces that Trump represents have always been in action in this country. That was more evident during January 6th than ever before. Because if you think about it, I remember very vividly, during the demonstrations in the 60s, they would build pins, fences around the tracts of land and put demonstrators and rioters in those fences and arrest them. And that is what Trumpist energy is talking about doing. Biden's energy is talking about maintaining the status quo. And everyone is talking about the danger of a Biden presidency and the danger of a Trump presidency. What they're actually talking about is the Trump presidency and the Biden presidency is going to maintain America as a dominant force in the world, seeking to be destructive to everyone except itself and other Europeans. This is a country that is losing its back, that is falling apart. This is colonialism slash colonialism slash my God, what am I trying? Imperialism and colonialism are being destroyed. When imperialism and colonialism falls apart, there's nothing left except a nation to be built in its place. The people who are saying no Biden, no Trump are saying no more energy that brought America into being. What they're saying is this is a new day, and everyone must be taken into an account. And they're saying that by virtue of speaking to the illegal control of the wealth of this country by billionaires and the illegal control that these wealthy people have through the court system. So all of the systems are fledgling right now. And these systems are fledgling because our recognizing that we are the balance is the adversary to these systems. So if we allow fear to continue, the systems will continue. Our courage, our recognition of who we are is laying the foundation for a constitutional nation based upon spiritual principles that have not existed in this earth since the beginning. So what I am saying to us in essence is this. It does not matter how things end up. They are going to end up in the formation of a nation. I do not believe that Trump, neither Biden, will have any power to do anything beyond what they have already done. The power forces that will move us forward, globally, are the forces that we are recognizing as spiritual forces. We cannot afford to make any attempt to process with our minds and see with our eyes what is being formed. We have to experience it with our soul. And the experiencing it with our soul is an experience that is inclusive of all of humanity, devoid of the greed, devoid of the imperialistic colonial principles that have dominated this earth since we had contact with Europeans or with the barbarians who have sought to destroy everything that is. So I say to us today, let's cease talking about outcomes of elections. Let's cease talking about, I would rather have Biden than Trump. Let's simply speak to the idea that we are balanced and our minds cannot conceive what our soul sees as the answer to what we are dealing with. Our minds have no sense of what is being revealed. our mind have no sense of what's manifested already behind the curtain of chaos. So I admonish us to push out of our minds all types of outcomes that comes to our minds, because the outcomes are clearly seen by our spiritual essence. But simply because we cannot describe them in picture form, we have a problem trying to hold on to the reality that they do exist behind this curtain of chaos. I hope I'm clear, and I hope this resonates with you. Thank you.
Ron, may I make a comment, please?
Of course.
This is Evelyn again. In my spirit, in my soul, I feel this, that we must remember who and whose we are. If this is a mantra, those who do mantras or whatever, put this in your mantra. Remember, or I know who and whose I am. Let it resound. Put it out there. Remember who you are. Don't ever forget that. It may be times when you have situations come up, but we got to remember, family. Remember who and whose you are. I'm done.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you. I'm coupling that with what Pastor just said, and focusing our energy on who we are and what we're doing, and not worrying about elections or what politicians or anybody else says. You are the energy that moves the earth, moves the universe. And that is what our focus should be.
Ron,
Yes, sir.
we are going to experience something that I think if we look for it, it will be shown to us if we embrace it. The dominant power of African femininity. The dominant power of African femininity. That's all that has been talked about. The dominant power of African femininity. The African female in a position of power. The African female in terms of entrepreneurship. The African female this. The African female that. We are in an era of dominant African femininity. The domination of is not a goddess. The domination of God, and in the way it should have been continued from the beginning. It simply had a punctuation put there to pause it. Now that pause is over with. African femininity is the dominant force in the earth, and we will see the manifestation of what is birthed behind the curtain of chaos. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. This may be a good place again to pause. Let us reflect on what we've discussed today, unless there are questions or comments, of course. Is there anyone?
Does that resonate?
Yes, sir, it does with me. Anyone else?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Any comments on what Pastor said, y'all? Or questions? If it doesn't resonate, any questions? Yeah, take a deep breath. We are at a
Thank
good
you.
place. Yes, sir. We're
Thank you.
let us take a minute to pause and if you have any questions and or comments, please jot them down or send them to someone, and that is where we will begin tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all your thoughts, all your energy, your questions, and look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, family.
Oh,
Everybody.
just a reminder again, California at 3 o'clock, y'all.